Tonight, as you may know, it's estimated that close to 100,000 children, mainly from Central America, will illegally cross into the USA by the end of this fiscal year. That humanitarian crisis has been well documented in the news, and the federal government is sending many of the children to various parts of the USA. But when Fox News and other agencies asked the Department of Health and Human Services where the kids were going, we were stonewalled. Joining us now from Washington, investigative journalist Cheryl Atkinson, who is also working the story. So what did you find out, Cheryl?
I asked the same questions, and I, too, was told that they wouldn't engage in a discussion about it. They're using, the government, illegitimate reasons to withhold obviously public information that directly impacts the public in many ways, and they're even withholding it from Congress. They say they can't give out this private, confidential information about minors. Nobody is asking for that. They're giving an answer to a question that was never asked. We simply want to know the general locations of the shelters to which these tens of thousands of minors are being placed.
All right. Now, again, it is the Department of Health and Human Services which is in charge of, I guess, seeing that the children are cared for. It's not Homeland Security. Once you get by the border, Homeland Security hands it off to HHS. And HHS basically is saying, look, we're not going to tell the press what we're doing, how we're doing it, or where the kids are going. We're not giving you any information. That's what they do in China. That's what they do in Russia. It's not what they do in the USA. Now, here's why they're doing it, Cheryl, and I think you know that. Murrieta, California. Remember what happened there?
Yes, there were protests, and the community actually had an impact on whether or not the children were placed in shelters there. I think that is one thing the government is trying to avoid,
That's
which,
right.
Again, I think is unlawful under freedom of information and public information law. But look at it this way as well. Congress is also completely unable to do its job of watchdogging these contracts worth hundreds of millions of dollars being issued to various nonprofits and other companies that take care of the kids. In one case, according to Senator Charles Grassley, a contract was being considered to convert a Texas hotel at a cost of $166,000 per year per child. And he didn't receive answers from HHS on that question. How can Congress do its job of oversight on these important contracts that are paid for with tax dollars if they can't even get basic information?
Yeah, nobody knows where they're going or who's taking care of them and all of that. But again, they're not putting it out because they don't want uprisings like you saw in Murrieta, California, to go around the country and to have the news agencies put it on television. And this has got to come from the very top. The Department of Health and Human Services doesn't make these decisions. I mean, this is like Kerry and the press spokesperson. They didn't go out and say that I was a sexist without checking with Kerry. I had to check with him. And the Health and Human Services didn't say to you and to me, we're not telling you where the kids are without checking with the White House. They have to do that. And the reason they're doing that is they don't want the bad PR. But it becomes a scandal. It becomes a scandal because you have, well, let's say hundreds of millions of dollars that is going to be spent, as you pointed out, to try to care for these children. All right. So you got 100,000 kids. If it's 1,000, that's $100,000 is way more than that. So we're into a lot of money and continuing basis. And then the local communities, they don't know. I mean, it's impacting them all over the place. We heard the governor of Massachusetts say when some of the children arrived in the Bay State, I didn't even know they were coming. So this is, I think, a tremendous usurpation of power by the federal government.
I think if you look at it this way, too, it's an outrage. They're basically conferring more rights on the people who are in this country illegally than they're conferring on the citizens who are here being forced to pay for the decisions that the government makes. And that's quite an irony, and I think it's improper.
But the government does have leeway in what it spends money on. However, it's violating states' rights by not informing the states that the kids are coming on in. And I think most Americans are compassionate. You know, if they do it the right way, I don't think that there would be. Murrieta, it was an interesting situation because it is close to the border, it's been impacted. But I could be wrong about that. But the bottom line is that you can't find out, the Factor and Fox News can't find out. Are you going to file Freedom of Information Act on it?
I'm thinking about that. Of course, they know that they can still obfuscate and delay a Freedom of Information request. They pay to defend any lawsuit on that with your tax dollars, so there's no disincentive for them to not withhold the information, and they routinely do this. I want to point out that we did interview some immigration advocates for the illegal immigration advocates for the piece I did for Sinclair TV. And even a lead immigration advocate said the communities deserve to know this information if they want to know it. So I think that's quite telling.
All right, Cheryl, thanks again. We appreciate it. Plenty more ahead as the Factor moves along this evening. Gutfellow McGurk on the ISIS thread and a great white shark attack off the coast of Massachusetts. Then Waters also on the